Welcome to mypersonalfootballcoach.com's Soccer Player Development Podcast. Discover all the secrets, hints and tips about soccer player development and soccer coaching from some of the leading figures in world soccer. Here's your host, Saul Isaacson Hurst.
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another show. This week we've got a fantastic guest for you, someone who is really experienced foundation phase specialist. It's Paul Gray, who's currently head of foundation phase at Blackburn Rovers. Obviously Blackburn's got a really strong tradition of developing some top players. Paul's had a great career working all around the northwest at clubs like Accrington Stanley, Preston North End, Blackpool. Also did a stint over in Norway with Bodo Glimt. So lots of great knowledge to share. Really, obviously, intelligent, experienced guy. Speaks really well about the game. So had a real good hour-long chat about football here, and particularly about development in the foundation phase. So this is a top episode with a top coach, and one I know you're going to enjoy. And stay tuned. Got lots and lots of podcasts lined up. Like I say, challenges to get you out one a week at least. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. So, Paul Gray, welcome to the show.
Thanks, all. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming, mate. Just can you give us a brief description of your playing and coaching journey up to this point, please?
So didn't play as a professional, just played amateur football, coaching for quite a long time, since I was about 15 years old. Started in grassroots, did that for a long time. Went over to America, coached in America for a year, and then decided I wanted to take the plunge, and that's what I wanted to do for a career. Managed to get a part-time job working at Preston North End. I then moved over to Accrington Stanley, got a full-time job there. Moved from Accrington Stanley to Blackpool, Blackpool to Preston North End. Briefly went out to Norway last year for a year, worked at Bodo Glimt, and I'm back in the UK now at Blackburn Rovers.
Wow, that's so pretty. You're doing this, just doing a tour of the north there, aren't you? You've done every, like most northern clubs. There's not that many to go. So tell us about that. So you said you're in America. Tell us about that experience briefly.
Yeah, that was a really good experience for me. I've been coaching for a long time, but just working in grassroots football and community coaching. But I had a bit of a life-changing experience in terms of alongside that coaching part-time and voluntary, I was working with the family business for my dad. He actually had a heart attack. He's all right now. He's still with us now.
Oh, wow.
And he was actually led on his hospital bed all wired up and stuff. I was actually the first person that got to him before the ambulance. He was in his car. And anyway, later on that night, he actually said to me, you need to go and do what you want to do now. I don't want you to have the stress of looking after a business that actually you don't really want to do. You need to go and do what you want to do now. And those words kind of stayed with me for a while. And I'd always coached. I'd always loved football. I'd always been involved in football. So I took the decision pretty quickly after that to head out to America and go out there for a year, work for MLS camps, just traveling around, coaching in clubs and doing camps and things. Just a really, really good experience coaching every day with different players, different abilities, different clubs, and just loads of different experiences.
I did that for a couple of years as well, and I always go back to that. You know, like you say, every day on the grass, like, you know, every day, few hours, like it's priceless, isn't it? That contact time with all the different sorts of players in terms of developing you. Also, a big thing about developing your personality. You've got to be a big personality out there and that sort of thing as well, right?
Yeah, massively. It really lit the fire in me, wanting to help people get better and wanting to work in football every day. And yeah, I had some really great experiences out there. Met some really, really good people, like friends for life over there, and people who I work with from the UK. So yeah, that really made the decision for me that I wanted to go and pursue that, and that's what I wanted, a career in football.
So then tell us about that. You come back. How did you get the job at Accrington Stanley?
Yeah, so I came back, and my initial plan when I was out in the States was actually to go back out there. I loved it that much. But a few people out there said, have you got a degree? And I said, no, I didn't go to uni after college because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And they all said, if you haven't got a degree, you ain't going to get a job in America. So I looked into studying over there or studying back in England. And it worked out that it was going to be easier to study in the UK for 3 years. So I actually went back to uni at the age of 26, I think I was. Enrolled at university in Preston. And the plan was to do my degree and then go back out to the States. Didn't really work out that way. Alongside my degree, I got loads of experiences coaching in this country. So I started working for Man United soccer schools, which allowed me to, again, travel all over the world and coach, travel all over the UK and coach. I started coaching a girls' grassroots team. I started working for Preston North End in the community. So loads and loads of different types of coaching. And I just filled all my spare time from uni coaching and coaching different age groups, different levels of ability and stuff. And then obviously that led to an opening at Accrington Stanley. So this was, what was this? This was probably 10, 11 years ago. And Accrington had just started their Centre of Excellence at the time. So that was a really interesting one. I was part-time for a few months at Accrington. And then it was right at the start of EPPP. So it was kind of a bit of like right place, right time. And then a full-time job became available, lead foundation phase coach. So I applied and ended up getting it.
So then tell us a bit about what were your first impressions of academy football? And then what were the challenges of, I assume you basically got to, write the program and syllabus, you going to EPPP, it's a lot of paperwork and that sort of thing. What was that experience like as well?
Yeah, so lots of challenges at Accrington. At the time, probably the smallest club in the football league at the time, with the smallest attendances, brand new like centre of excellence, and I think they've basically just gone and just got all the best local grassroots players and kind of put them together. And like you say, it was right at the beginning of EPPP, and there was no curriculum in place, and it was a big challenge. And I seem to remember back then I was working like 7 days a week. Luckily, I didn't have any kids back then, and it was interesting, but a time again that I would never swap, because I think from that first start in Centre of Excellence or academy football, probably since then everything's got easier.
So you hit the road running. Well, it's interesting because you talked about, you're doing all those hours on the grass in America, and now suddenly all those hours, and also, as people know, academy football, it comes with the office stuff as well, and you're pretty much, you just hit the ground running with that one as well, and get that experience in the locker as well straight away.
Yeah, straight away. I mean, and especially because it was right at the start. I think at the time, the full-time staff in the program, I think there was probably only, at the time, there was probably academy manager, head of coaching, and me, lead foundation phase coach. That was it. They hadn't even employed a youth development phase coach because the head of coaching was doing both. And so it's basically 4 full-time members of staff looking after 100 and whatever players.
And then tell us about your curriculum. Then tell us about that glorious first, the first edition that's come out, the Paul Gray handbook of, sessions and stuff.
I look back now and I think, oh wow, what was I thinking? Like what was I doing? And I guess in the last 11, 12 years, from my experiences, I think we've come a long way in terms of what we're delivering to the players on the grass. I remember back then, I look back and I think, it was week 1 passing. week 2 dribbling, week 3 shooting, and you think, oh yeah, and I just think, yeah, it was just kind of everyone. You just had to tick the boxes, didn't you? And it was kind of right. What we're going to put together, what we're going to put together for the players, and yeah, I think looking at the programs and the curriculums that we have in place now compared to 10, 11 years ago, I think it looks a lot different.
Well, it's quite a tall order. I mean, if you just, no disrespect, I mean, I spent a couple of years in America as well, and I disrespect to MLS camps and stuff and the grassroots, but academy football is different, you know, and there's a step up in terms of quality and expectations. So it's difficult to go in and suddenly you're at the top and you've got to produce that. You know, that's quite a tall order. So, like I say, I suppose those experiences are priceless, right? And they hold you in good stead for the future.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Sink or swim type thing, or fight or flight, or if you want to call it. Just so let's talk about then. Let's move on. Because I want to get through all these clubs you worked at. You a few. Talk about then your next role at Blackpool. How did that come about, and what the main differences and comparisons, contrasts, similarities.
So obviously at Accrington, brilliant experience, really tough day in, day out. You're kind of fighting against the big boys. Not a massive budget, but some really good, invaluable experiences. And then the opportunity to go to Blackpool came along. They had just dropped out of the Premier League. So it was kind of the season they'd just been in the Premier League. I think Paul Ince was the manager.
Wow, I forgot about them in the Premier League. I'll be honest, that's probably a while ago.
Yeah. So yeah, it was that season. Paul Ince was the manager, brand new academy manager, brand new head of coaching. I just remember going and looking at the stadium at the time, and obviously that year in the Premier League, they'd obviously spent a little bit of money and it looked great. And I think they'd managed to recruit some really good local players because of that season in the Premier League. So yeah, it was definitely a step up in terms of facilities, players that you're working with week in, week out, day in, day out. But again, at the time there was they had some issues with ownership and a few problems off the field, and yeah, so again it was definitely a step up, but some tough times as well, really. And
what are the main differences in terms of day to day? I mean, was it facilities and the quality of players or anything like that?
Yeah. So definitely easier in terms of facilities. When I was at Accrington, we were always scratching around looking for somewhere to train and play and stuff. It was good, but it was tough. But a little bit more settled at Blackpool, and again works with some really good staff. Richie Kyle was at Blackpool at the time as the head of coach, and he's obviously gone on to work for the England underage teams, and I think he's at Forest Green Rovers now. So it was great working day in, day out with Richie. They had some real success on the pitch at under 18 level. So I think they had a couple of league wins and a couple of good FA Youth Cup wins. So it was good to be around that. And like I said, that season in the Premier League, they've managed to recruit some pretty good players in the schoolboy program as well. So
what were the main challenges in terms of being a manager, going in as head of Lead Foundation? And then what were the main, was it difficult? I mean, because you've come from an environment where they've just created the role and you're almost first in it. Now you come to where someone's been before and you've got staff there. Were there any challenges in terms of, did you want to change the program or change things and that sort of thing? What was that like?
Quite a big challenge, actually, because the person who'd been the Lean Foundation phase coach before me was then actually promoted to academy manager.
All right. Following those footsteps.
So it was like, all right, okay. So, it's kind of like having to manage up, really, because it was a case of, right, this is what's in place now. He was obviously now the academy manager and ultimately my boss. And so it was kind of, you don't want to go in and go, all right, yeah.
Yeah, no big changes.
Yeah, let's rip this up.
And, yeah, exactly. Rubbish,
Yeah, so it was kind of like, yeah, it was just having to make some small changes along the way. And again, I think probably the good thing was that it was almost kind of like a brand new management team, if you like, the academy management team. So Kieran, who was League Foundation Phase coach, had been promoted to academy manager. Richie had just come in. I'd gone in that season. Jamie Milligan had gone in as youth development phase coach. And it was kind of all new. So we did look to implement quite a lot of changes. So it was good. And I
so
think
then it's gone.
And I think obviously I'd kind of learned from the 2 or 3 years at Accrington, and my thinking around curriculums and programs had evolved. And then obviously bouncing ideas off people like Kieran and Richie, who'd been at Everton and Blackburn before, added into that. And I think every kind of job that I've had, you just kind of get better and evolve, don't you? And things seem to improve, really.
Yeah. So how long were you there at Blackpool?
2 years at Blackpool.
And so how did the job at Preston come about?
Yeah, so I'm from Preston, local to Preston, and towards the end at Blackpool, I think because of problems off the pitch in terms of the owners and stuff, it was and the fans and kind of how they perceived the owners at the time, it was getting pretty tough. So I actually got a phone call from someone at Preston who I'd previously worked with briefly at Accrington, and just said, would I be interested? I think the person who was League Foundation Phase coach at the time had moved on to another club. And yeah, that opportunity came up, and I jumped at it, really. I'd been a season ticket holder at Preston, and my dad's a season ticket holder at Preston. So it was just a great opportunity, really.
So the same question then, what were the first impressions when you went into Preston? What were the major differences or similarities between there and Blackpool?
Straight away, differences at the time. The football club as a whole just seemed a lot more stable, and it was kind of a different trajectory at the time when I'd gone into Preston. They had just gone up to the Championship from League One, so I think everyone was kind of positive, and it was the club was on the up, if you like, and there was just a lot of stability at the club, and I think straight away you just noticed all the processes that were in place were really good, and yeah, it was, everyone just seemed to have a plan and an idea, and EPP had been going a good few years then, and they had a good curriculum in place. So I think from Accrington, when it was kind of completely coming up with a program, then Blackpool, it was really adding quite a lot of meat to the bones, if you like, of kind of a program that had been put in place, but there wasn't loads to it. Then at Preston, it was already in place. It had already been going for a few years, and then it was just kind of tweaking it a little bit, if you like, and just kind of seeing the bits that really worked and how can we get them better, and trying to find out the bits that didn't work and maybe just slightly changing them. So yeah.
So I mean, yeah, we all know, like, you go to a club and you think, wow, that's good. I haven't seen that before, that sort of thing. Give us a couple of any sort of things that stood out when you went to Preston. You thought, wow, they're really good. I want to sort of take those away wherever I go the rest of my career.
Yeah, I think one of the things at Preston that was already in place, and I think it's going on now in a lot of clubs. They already had a futsal program in place at Preston, and I think that just added some real variety to our program. It just gave us something different to work with the younger players, and I'd never really done much futsal before, and I felt that was a real positive in our program, and I kind of built on that for the 6 years that I was at Preston. At first, it was very much just futsal sessions and coaching sessions, just using the futsal ball and just doing a little bit, and then by the end, I'd kind of introduced a futsal games program, something that Cat 3 academies didn't really have. So in the end, I'd put in like a Champions League style futsal tournament, which we did every week with the foundation phase players at Preston. So I think that was something that was already there, and I built on, which really worked for us at the time.
So, and how long were you at Preston?
6 years.
6 years. So you decided to give up the sun of Preston and go to the Baltics, cold of up in the Bodo Glimt up in Norway. Tell us about that extreme. That's a bit of a jump in it. That's a bit of a change, cultural shift for you. How did that come about? What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah. So I think I've always enjoyed traveling. Obviously, I went out to America, coached out in America. I did a lot of traveling and coaching in different countries with Man United soccer schools. And at the time at Preston, I think I'd been there for 6 years. I'd done a couple of years at Blackpool. I'd done 2 or 3 years at Accrington as well. And I just really felt that I wanted to do something completely different. And I think I was looking ahead to maybe the future as well. I didn't want to move out to Norway forever, but I just wanted a different experience and a different way of working with the younger players. So in Norway, they don't sign academy players until 13. So obviously, it's kind of like a race over here, isn't it? At 6, 7, and 8 to find all those players to get into your program. But over in Norway, obviously they work with them for a little bit longer, and then they'll make those decisions at the age of 12. So I just wanted to see how that worked really, and the fact that Greg was there as well, who was someone that I'd read lots of his articles and things, and I just wanted to work with Greg as well and just experience a different culture really.
How did that, was it advertised job then? How did that come about? You just saw it advertised and applied, or what was that?
Yeah.
Just free CV and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it advertised, thought, yeah, that'd be interesting. Throw my CV in. Actually didn't really think much of it at the time, and yeah, having spoken to Greg, I think quite a lot of people apply for that job actually. So I'm pretty pleased that I ended up getting it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they actually used the app in lockdown and stuff, and I know Greg as well. They've had him on the show. He's top. I mean, they're a very innovative club from academy to first team, aren't they? So yeah, one of the top clubs in Scandinavia.
Yeah, honestly, I think I was there for 8-9 months in the end, just due to COVID and travel restrictions and quarantine rules and stuff. But yeah, in those 8-9 months, it was just incredible just to see a club that size, just how they work, and yeah. So
let's give some of the juicy details. That's what we all want to hear then. So because your role was like head of 6 to 12s or something like that, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So then tell us a bit of that. I mean, so for example, is it just like the under-8s program in England, where it's a free for all, like players go to all different clubs and that age, or you just you can't, that sort of thing?
No, completely different. So because of the geography of Norway, so I'll give you an example. So the closest professional club to the north was Tromsø, which is a 6-hour drive north. The closest professional club south is Rosenborg, which is a 6 or 7 hour drive. So in the county of Nordland, basically no other professional clubs for hours and hours around. So basically all those players in Nordland, Glimt have got kind of
carte blanche. And I suppose that's a difference though, isn't it? They don't need to sign players until they get to 13 because they're not going to go anywhere else. It's too far.
Yeah. So that's one advantage. But I think my job really was to work with those clubs. So all the local clubs in the city. They call it a city, but it's not a city. It's a town. It's only 50,000 people in Bodo.
Wow.
And so it was to work with all those clubs, work with the coaches, work with the players in those grassroots clubs. Glimt actually has a grassroots section as well, and to work with all the clubs and the coaches in the partner clubs around the county. And I think the setup of grassroots football over there was the big difference for me to over here. So which school you went to in Bodo, age 6 to 12. So if you went to a certain school, you played for a certain grassroots club. So the kind of the town was sectioned off, and basically wherever you lived, that's the grassroots club that you played for. So there was none of these super teams where they go around and
tapping up everyone.
Yeah, and they're all moving around and they're all playing for the best team. So I think that was good because it was just fair. Wherever you lived, that's who you played for. And I think the collaboration between Glimt and all the clubs in the town was incredible. So we kind of wrote the program for our club, and then we shared it with all the other clubs in the town, and they were like, "Yeah, that's great." Yeah, and they just kind of worked off the same hymn sheet, really. And it was, I'd go out and watch games from 6 to 12, and there was no like keepers booting the ball and launching it and trying to win games and stuff. They were all trying to play that, kind of. It was great to see, and it was great to see the buy-in of each and every club in the town and in the county to kind of develop young players in the same way.
I suppose in effect they're just your development centres, aren't they? Well, they are your development centres, and they're just coaching the way you want them to coach. Got a massive network. That's quite interesting. So then, in terms of recruitment, how many sort of players did you have to choose from? What was the sort of there's only 50,000 people in the area, so there's can't be that many of the players around.
Yeah. So under 12, so at 11, under 11 and under 12, basically you would in the teams that are in the city, we would probably have like they didn't use the word elite, they called it like a city group, and they would basically have around 20 to 30 players who they would come in and give extra training to in our sessions, and then at the end of under 12s, they would maybe sign 11 or 12 of those players for the city team to go into the academy. But then the interesting thing about in Norway, because the county was so huge geographically, you can bring players in from partner clubs, and they can also play for the academy teams as well. So you would basically sign players who lived in the city, but then you could also play, when you play national games and things, you could bring them in from other partner clubs around the county. It's really
so you didn't have teams then from 6 to 12, 6 to 11, but then at 13, that's when they first have a team. So you're just basically putting on extra training for big groups throughout those younger age groups.
Yeah.
And I assume they're changing all the time. The kids that are in there and stuff, or what?
Yeah. So at 11s and 12s, it was probably you probably then know around the best 20 or 30 players in the town. Because like I say, it's not a huge place, and you've been around and you've watched all the games and stuff. And then it's just kind of in that under 12 season, it's just them whittling down that group to maybe 11 or 12.
And what was like the level of players like compared to Blackburn or Preston?
Yeah, so I've had this question. A lot of people have asked me this question. It's really interesting, especially for a town so small. I would say that in all the groups, there is maybe one or two at the top end of the group who I would say are probably like Cat 1 players.
Right. All right.
One or two, and then there's probably another little group behind that of maybe another 3 or 4, maybe 5, who probably would we're probably coping like a Cat 3 games, Cat 2 or Cat 3 program, if you like.
Yeah.
But then probably towards the bottom end of the group, that's probably when some of them boys will probably struggle in the academy system back in England. But yeah, I would say that top end, there are usually a couple of players in there who, you would take probably in a academy program.
Interesting, isn't it? Especially for a culture that's in the snow for 6 months of the year. But I mean, as obviously I'm half Swedish, so I sort of know the region, like, very sport obsessed cultures up in there, and very naturally athletic as well.
Yeah.
You get a lot of athletes in that type of the world, don't you? That part of the world.
Yeah, and they absolutely love it, and I think the way school is set up really helps, because they would finish school at about 1:30, 2:00, and then they'd be coming in to us. Like we had a big, huge indoor hall, and we'd be putting sessions on in the afternoons. So the fact that school finishes so early, that obviously allows you to get a bit of extra time with them.
And tell us about practically, what was the curriculum like? What sort of stuff were you delivering?
Yeah, so they the youngest age groups, they had a really, really good program already in place, and it was very much concentrated on some technical work, obviously, working on the technique, but very much all around 1v1s, 2v1s, 2v2s, and it was really, really age specific, and it was, I think someone had done some really good work in Glimt prior to me going in, and like I say, the good thing was that all the coaches bought into it. It was all stuff around first attacker, second attacker, first defender, second defender, and the thing I liked the most is they taught the young players. So it wasn't just a case of set this game up and just go and let them play. There was some really good detail that they were giving to the young players. So yeah, it was good.
So then tell us then about your current role. You tried to leave Bodo Glimt, and how did that come about, and what was the decision to go back home?
Yeah, so when I took the job at Glimt, the agreement was that for the first 6 months, I would be able to travel back, see my wife and my two girls every 3 weeks, spend 3 or 4 days at home, and then fly back out to Bodo. The club, they were also going to fly my wife and girls out a couple of times in the first 6 months, just to see how they liked it. And then after 6 months, we were going to make the decision around whether they were going to come out and live in Bodo with me, or whether the traveling backwards and forwards worked out. Obviously, the times that we were in with COVID didn't allow that. Quarantine rules were 14 days. So if I'd have flown back here and then flown back out to Norway, I would have had to just be in quarantine for 2 weeks every time I went back. So I just wouldn't have been able to do any work. Actually, there wasn't really much COVID in the Arctic Circle in Bodo. I think the most, when I was there was only, I think the most cases we ever had at once was maybe 5 or 6 in the town. So I just really couldn't get home. I think in 7 months, I think I only got back home once at Easter for 10 days. My wife and girls didn't get a chance to come over and see Bodo. And then obviously it came to the first summer that I was out there, and the plan was to come home for a number of weeks. The club were great, and they said, yeah, just go home for 4 weeks and spend some time with your family, and then come back out. And I still think at the time, last summer, there were still question marks around travel restrictions and quarantine rules and things like that. So and then the opportunity came up at Blackburn. So it was a big decision, really. It was, I loved Glimt and my time working with Greg and all the other guys in Bodo, and it was a great club and a great project. But then the lure of coming back home, Blackburn, like, good academy, always one that I've admired when I've been working here in the Northwest. Trust young players. And so in the end, the decision was, it was all around family and the program that they have in place at Blackburn and the club. So yeah, it was a tough decision because I enjoyed my time there, but yeah, it was just being with family and stuff probably made that.
So then talk about that then, because it's Blackburn is a big club, big history, big life. It's a very successful academy. What was it like? What were the first impressions going in there like? What were the first things you sort of think, wow, this is a bit different or anything?
Oh, incredible. So like, just the first thing, like the first day I went in, Stuart, the academy manager, said, right, I'll walk you around to introduce you to everyone. I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, there is so many people that work here. It was like, I'd only ever worked in Cat 3 before, and it was quite a small team at Bodo. And I just remember thinking, I have no idea what anyone's name is here. Like, I'd met so many people, and yeah, just the sheer volume of staff, sports science, the number of physios, the number of analysts, and obviously, it's like Cat 1 program, you have to have a certain number of staff in all the departments, and that was the biggest thing to me, especially when I first started.
And tell us about tell us about your program then, your program now. Tell us about the syllabus there, about Blackburn. How does that work for the foundation phase? Do you have like a tactical cycle, technical cycle? Give us some details.
Yeah, so we work in 4-week blocks, if you like. So we'll work 4 weeks on like an in possession theme, so playing through the thirds. So we do. It's two weeks, and in total it's an 8-week cycle, if you like.
Right.
So we'll work 2 weeks on playing through the thirds, an in possession cycle. We'll work for a couple of weeks on we call it fight zone. So that's basically out of possession. So it's winning the ball back, and then there's 2 transition topics, so attacking transitions, and then defending transitions as well. So it's like an 8-week cycle, if you like. So yeah, playing through the thirds, fight zone, attacking transition, and then reactive pressure.
And then to give us like a bit of a taste, what does a typical session look like on there? Is it like Monday? What you train 3 times a week, I assume, and
3 times a week.
Game.
Yeah.
And is it like, are those sessions themed? Is there different themes to each of those sessions, or it's just a session and they're?
Yeah. So each of those sessions are themed. So what we're slightly tweaking it at the moment, and so what it's going to look like is there's going to be 3 sessions. So for example, playing through the thirds, it's going to be where the first session is on building the attack. So that's kind of going to be situated in our defending third, so kind of building from the keeper and from the defenders. So it's just to give the players and the coaches just a little bit of an idea of how it all relates to the game. The next session is then going to be situated in the middle third of the pitch, so it's creating the attack. So starting things from that middle third, and then the last session of the week is finishing the attack. So that's going to be final third stuff, and that's going to be the same for each one. So again, in the fight zone sessions, first session would be like defending from the front. So in our attacking, so trying to win the ball back really high. What does that look like? The second session, what does it look like when when you're trying to win the ball back in midfield, and then the third session, defending in like emergency defending in your own box and in your own defensive third.
Gives us a taste of
transitions.
Gives us like a typical session Monday night, what that might look like. Give us,
Yeah. So we give the coaches quite a bit of freedom in terms of, so they've got the topic, they've got kind of the area of the pitch that they're going to be working in, but then the way we set it up, there's kind of 4 phases to our sessions. So phase 1 is technical work, so like closed technical practices, and if they want, they can choose that as part of their session. Phase 2 is like 1v1s or 2v1s, so small stuff. Phase 3 is probably a few more numbers, so it might be like I don't know, like a directional possession practice or something like that. So maybe 3v3s or 4v4s, and then the phase 4 is looks like the game really. So there's a little bit of freedom for the coaches to decide what they do and when they do it and how long they spend on it. I think I like it because sometimes if you're too prescribed and you say, right, you have to do this, spend this long on this and this long on this, I sometimes think that doesn't really fit to what the players need, to what the individual players and what the group might need. So they might want to spend a little bit more time on a certain element to the session.
Yeah, and that's what you want as a coach, isn't it? You want to go, you want to be trusted to deliver, right? Rather than saying, do this here, do that there. I think that's great, great way to approach it.
And I think the good thing is about my role at the moment, I'm not attached to a team. So the senior phase coach roles that myself and John are doing at Blackburn, it's supporting Tony with his head of coaching role. And so we're doing quite a lot of coach support and coach development with the coaches. So, we get the opportunity to watch a lot of the sessions and to help them with the planning and stuff. And, we do loads and loads of little conversations around what the sessions look like and asking questions or why did you do that? And so it's really good.
And what's your CPD program look like for your coaches? How regularly do you guys get together and do stuff like that?
Yeah. So I'd say there's probably like 3 or 4 occasions in a season where we'll all get together and have different kinds of CPD. Sometimes it'll be real phase specific stuff. So we might get someone like Pete Sturgis or Ian Bateman in to do something with the foundation phase group. Or I think the last one actually, we observed it was like the 18s or the 23. So we actually observed a PDP session and looked how that related to a game that they had the following night. I think it was 23s. Just to see kind of that full kind of pathway, if you like, and what does it look like at the top end. So that was really helpful. So there's loads of variety in the CPD program. It's good.
And tell us about your games program. How do you approach the games? Is it in terms of like, is it winning mentality? You got to win at all costs? You're sticking it in the channels, or what's your approach to games on the weekend?
No, I think we just use the games program as an extension of the coaching program. Really, I think it's important that the lads want to be competitive and they want to win games, because if they have that mentality that it doesn't really matter and that they're just happy to go and get beat every game, then that's not really what you want. Ultimately, we play games because we want to win, but it's definitely not win at all costs. There's got to be some thought behind it. As long as the kids want to win and want to be competitive, that's important. But ultimately, it's got to be an extension of the coaching program, really.
Do you play certain formations at 9s and like 10s, 11s, or do you favour certain things, or do the coaches have freedom to do whatever they want there?
Yeah. So what we've done actually, we've just implemented this recently actually, because at YDP and PDP, what they do every 8-week block of work, if you like, they have 2 formations that they can choose from. So I think at the moment at YDP and PDP, I think they can play 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. So they've got the choice of those 2 formations that they play, and we've actually just put that in at foundation phase. So we've kind of tried to find a couple of formations that link in to those that they're doing at YDP and PDP, and we give them, so at 7v7 you can play this or this, at 9v9 you can play this or this, just the same as what they're doing at YDP and PDP, because I think the thinking behind that is that the first team manager might change, and you might not always be playing the same formation all the time. So we think it's really important to give those young players a variety of experiences and be able to play in a number of different formations. So we think that's helping.
Interesting. And how many players have you got in the under-9s, for example?
11 in our under-9s.
11. So that's almost just quite handy. Like you're playing a 7v7, for example, you got 4 subs. So that's sort of, I imagine that works out quite well numbers wise in terms of getting minutes on the pitch and stuff.
Yeah, I think we obviously it's in the Northwest and our program we're going up against Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Everton. There's some big clubs in the area, and I think what we found was and this was before I went there, but they were taking really, really, really big groups of players and going and trying to compete with like 2 7v7s or 3 7v or whatever. It was probably tough for quite a lot of the kids, because although we're Cat 1, we're a championship club and I've been a League 1 club. So I think the decision has been made to probably take smaller groups now in the foundation phase, and then probably add to them, as we go along. And I think from what I've seen with our under-9s this year, that's really, really helped them. So we've got 2 part-time coaches with that group of 11 players, plus me as well, and plus all the support staff. And the development of that under-9 group has been phenomenal this year, really, just because they've had that real care and that real attention. And I think it's been really good having a smaller group.
And what's your approach in terms of playing positions and rotating positions and that sort of thing with that throughout the whole foundation phase?
Yeah, so we probably do it on an individual basis, really. I've thought about this a lot over the years, and I know I've seen some programs where every player rotates around every single position and things like that. But what we try and do is we try and tailor it to each individual, really. So if there's some kids who all they want to do is defend and all they want to do is stop and stuff, well, actually they're really, really good at that. Let's give them loads of opportunities to get better at it. Yeah, we'll give them some other opportunities to improve at the other stuff, but actually they're brilliant at that. Let's really try and focus on on getting them brilliant at it. And it's similar, if there's someone who just wants to go and score goals and he's brilliant at running off the shoulder, and let's really support that and really improve that super strength, if you like. Give them other experiences as well. But there might be some certain individuals who maybe only play one or two positions.
And what about yourself? Looking through your CV, there's a pattern emerging into foundation phase lead. Is it that specialist, or do you think one day you'd like to move up and work in different age groups?
I just absolutely love working with them youngest players. Just the energy, the enthusiasm, how much you can see them coming on in a short space of time, really, I think I do my best work with the youngest players. Obviously, being a full-time member of staff over the years at Accrington, at Blackpool, at Preston, and now at Blackburn, I have worked with day release with the YDP groups. I've obviously done stuff with the 18s and stuff at the various clubs, and I really do think that my best work is done with foundation phase players. So I don't really have any ambitions to be a YDP coach or to be a PDP coach. Definitely don't want to be a first team coach. I don't think I could deal. I don't think I could deal with the pressure of potentially getting sacked all the time. So further down the line, probably like a head of coaching role or an academy manager role further down the line. That interests me because I think I have good qualities in terms of organisational skills and leadership and management stuff. So I'm pretty interested in that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe that further down the line, but not YDP.
Interesting. And what advice would you give for a young aspiring coach who wants to have a spectacular career like yourself in the game?
Give yourself as many different experiences as you possibly can get. So try a little bit of everything. Work out what works for you. So go and coach grassroots kids. Go and try and coach adults. Go and coach in girls football. Just give yourself loads and loads of different experiences and as much time on the grass as you can possibly get, because I think that is invaluable. Just having time working with players and seeing what works and trying things out, really.
And what about someone who wants to break into academy football, for example, like you said, what do you look for in a part-time coach when you're recruiting?
So like I said, over the years I've seen a lot of people trying to come into academy football, and it's tough, isn't it? It's really, really tough industry to get into. I think for me, what worked for me was just showing that level of commitment and going the extra mile, really. I've put in hours and hours of stuff that was unpaid and voluntary, and just trying to get those opportunities and to show people just how much it meant to me and just how much I wanted it. And yeah, I think just showing that commitment level and how much you want to be involved and how much you want to help young players. It's tough though.
Cool, Ray, thanks very much, mate. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, thanks all. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the chat.
Thanks for tuning in to the MyPersonalFootballCoach.com Soccer Player Development Podcast. MyPersonalFootballCoach.com's dynamic ball mastery program is the world's leading online individual technical training program, proven and developed at the highest level in the English Premier League. Sign up now to train like the pros and take your game to the next level. Master the ball, master the game.